It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
It's a Monday up and down the West Coast. Who wants to talk sports? We do. Coming off a great sports weekend. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, the irreverent, the intelligent John Riley, who broadcasts from left field. We welcome you to our bonus podcast on a Monday, coming off an absolutely amazing weekend. We got so many different stories to talk to you about. John, good afternoon. Before we get started, let's just briefly explain what we do at the end of each of the podcasts, because we're looking for another co-host to add to the conversation. Describe for them on live stream what Fans Forum is.
Yeah, Fans Forum is your chance to get involved. And geez, look at Hacksaw's Headlines. They got a ton to talk about. Great chance for you to get involved. If you have a question or comment for Lee, just drop it in the live chat on Facebook or on YouTube. We'll get you involved in Hacksaw, in the Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines. Be sure, of course, always to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And a reminder, when you subscribe, also share with all your friends. Tell them what we're doing on Monday with bonus coverage, our regular podcast on Thursday. Inform everybody and then subscribe so you'll get all the alerts. Also, right across the top of the screen, that's my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. If you like sports, you should read it every day. An absolute ton of information. One Man's Opinion columns I write every day. We can Hacksaw's Headlines, best 15 minutes in radio, and Hacksaw's mini polls. It's all free, so make sure you share with that too. And by the way, give us a thumbs up. By the way, if you're going to rate us, give us 5 stars. We have no pride. We'll take all those recommendations. John, let's get started. Great sports weekend, included a pretty good group of games at Petco Park.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great weekend with the Padres and the Rays. I mean, the Padres were going against the team with the best record in baseball, and you know they started to turn the corner here a bit.
That's what the headline says. Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
So that's what a first place team looks like. Tampa Bay rolls in here with 50 wins. Shut out the Padres in the first game of the series. The Padres grinded back. They figured a way to win out the last 2. Now they go on the road. Have the Padres turned the corner? I'll have to see that to believe that. But I will say this weekend series had everything in it. I mean, it was electric, it was vibrant, it was controversial, it was aggressive. I mean, strange weekend. Manny Machado chirps to the media. I think he's tired of answering questions about why dude is hitting 243. And he made the comment, just look at the back of my baseball card. That's what my career is all about. Well, not this year. Manny's starting to get a little chippy with the media. Games, 3 bunts in a row in 3 at-bats. I've never, ever seen that in my life. Padres used that to trigger a 2-run rally. In the box scores, it looks like 3 line drive hits, but they were just dumping balls out in front. Tampa didn't play, I didn't think played very good defense along the way. 2 errors on the same play involving Wander Franco. Just throw the ball all over the yard. Guys running the bases with reckless abandon. Tatis running crazy on the bases. When he's on first on a hit or a walk, he's instantly on second. He's taking extra bases. He's going from first to third on infield ground balls. Came home from first on another play. He was just all over the place. You add into that Blake Snell. Where'd that come from? Bottle that.
Yeah.
Use that once every 5 days. 12 strikeouts, 6 shutout innings. It is hard to believe. Blake Snell has allowed 1 run in his last 25 innings. Suicide squeezes. Just a grab bag of strategy during the course. I propose, my motion, we change the name of El Nino to Fernando Tatis, quote, Wild Horse.
Wild Horse.
Has he brought energy? Has he brought leadership? Has he brought electricity to the Padre batting order? That's pretty interesting. Now, that being said, flipping back to your first question, turn the corner. We'll find out. 10 of the next 13 are on the road, and they got to play the Giants, who are ahead of them. There's 6 teams right now in the National League that are all fighting for 3 wild card spots. So the Padres are going to have to find a way to get on a hot streak. And I don't know whether that's 5 wins in a row or that's 8 out of 10, but they're going to have to get on a hot streak to vault a whole bunch of these guys so they can be fighting for either position 1 or position 2 in the wild card race. Do they have a chance of catching the Dodgers? Maybe, but that would encompass the Padres winning 10 in a row and Arizona losing 10 straight. I don't know that that's in the cards. They're 7.5 back. They're the 6th wild card team with 5 in front of them. Granted, there's still half a season to go. But every time we've had an emotional upswing and said, yeah, that's the best of the Padres, then they promptly lose to a sub 500 team. They have a sub 500 record at home. They have a sub 500 record against teams with losing records. So I guess they haven't convinced me. I don't know. Have they convinced anybody on our live stream? You tell me. John, I just threw a lot of stuff at you, but you like the idea of Wild Horse?
Wild Horse, El Nino, Wild Horse, maybe. I mean, just the way he, advanced ultimately from first and came all the way around from home. It just showed off the athleticism. We talked about it earlier in the week, how a 5-tool performance that he had against the Guardians. Then against the Rays, he's running wild on the bases. He's throwing out Margot at home on a great play from right field. So now, Fernando I think he's really starting to show us that he's the best player on this team.
Oh, he's a complete player on this team right now. Now the burning question, because he plays so hard, don't get hurt.
Yeah, don't get hurt. But, he has a history of kind of going a little too far over the edge. But, you got to love Snell. The bullpen has generally been pretty good. Pitching and defense been solid. Just that hitting come around a little bit more, and then I think they're going to be in a good spot.
Just read the back of my baseball card, says Manny Machado. You tired of his reactions and response? The first third of the season response is, it's a long season. We'll get it figured out. Well, we're almost the halfway mark now, and dude's not hitting. He is playing defensively, not hitting like a $30 million a year player.
Well, he's probably hearing that every game,
exactly.
From all the post-game press that are in the locker room. He's probably gets a little irritated answering the same question over and over again. I have confidence Manny will come around. I mean, he has to lay off that slider down and away. And if he can do that, he's going to be terrific. It's just, it just hasn't been working for him lately.
Okay, Padre fan, if you're on the live stream, you answer the question, have the Padres turned the corner? Join us in Fans Forum. Let's go from one team to another team in the National League West.
Oh, my God, the Dodgers, who just got killed by the Giants over the weekend.
What a mess. Holy cow. We talked about a week ago, does the team president there, Andrew Friedman, go ahead and try to make a deal to fix what ails the Dodgers? Dodgers are hitting the daylights out of the ball. They're playing pretty good defense. The Dodgers pitching staff is just staggered. They've got 7 different starting pitchers who have had injuries already the first half of the season. The bullpen has been very erratic outside of Evan Phillip. They don't really have anybody you can trust on a week by or game by game, night by night basis to go to. And obviously what's happened to the front end of the starting rotation has been real significant. But on Monday morning, Andrew Friedman said, the solutions to our pitching problems are going to come from within. There's not going to be a deal. We've seen some of the kid pitchers show up. Bobby Miller threw 3 brilliant starts in a row, gave up only 1 run. Now, he did get blown out in his last start, but that happens to all rookies. And then they brought up this young pitcher from AA and AAA, and he threw 6 no-hit innings in his major league debut, turned the ball over to the bullpen, and the bullpen turned a lead into a setback. And it was just absolutely awful what they did to Emmett Sheehan. But you got Miller and you got Sheehan, who've proven they can pitch, and you got Kershaw. They hope to get Julio Urias back maybe at the end of this week. Syndergaard is already at Camelback Ranch, and they're working on his mechanics. He doesn't have any physical woes, but it's up here or it's in here. They think they'll get him figured out. And what they need to do is they need to settle on who's going to be certain guys in the pen, because right now Dave Roberts seems to be clutching and grabbing. And, one time Caleb Ferguson pitches well, the next time he can't get anybody out. And it's been the same situation with Vesia and virtually everybody outside of Evan Phillip. What I think they need to do is A, hope these starting pitchers can hang in there, and then B, find a slot for who's the 6th inning guy, if you got to have a 6th inning guy, and there's a different guy in the 7th, and get them settled in. It's one thing the Padres, I think, have mastered a great deal. End of the conversation, Andrew Friedman, the solution has to come from within.
Well, that's an interesting angle because the Dodgers always have all the resources, right? They'll always go out and get whoever they need, but they have a lot of guys. What about Gratterall? Remember that guy?
Hot and cold.
Yeah. And he was always popping off to the Padres and he could throw like over 100 miles an hour. Is he part of that mix? I mean, how's he doing so far this year?
Depends what day of the week it is. Hot and cold, Jekyll Hyde, good and bad, you name it. I mean, they've got probably, I want to say 6 guys out of the pen that are just pitching erratically to the point you can't trust them. But you have to use them. Of course, there's nobody left in the farm system. And all their young pitchers are up here. A couple of them are hurt. So, I mean, the Dodgers think they can work this through. I was aghast on the out-of-town scoreboard Saturday. I looked at that thing. I said, no. Dodgers lost 15-0 at home to your Giants.
Yeah.
Dodgers have been playing baseball since the 1880s. That 15-0 home field loss was the worst loss in Dodger history, either LA or Brooklyn, dating back to 1898.
Oh my.
Wow.
That goes way back. And especially of the Giant Dodger rivalry. I mean, my buddy up in San Francisco, a huge Giant fan, he was starting to ask himself the question, are the Giants actually good? You know, because we weren't expecting much from them. And now they find themselves, I think the Giants are in 3rd place, right?
39-32.
Yeah, but they're doing a lot better than the Padres right now. I think we expected sort of a down season for San Francisco, but geez, 15-0 at home.
Dodgers have lost 10 of their last 14 of their last 22. But here's the screwball part of this conversation. With all that losing, they're only 4 back of Arizona in first place. Because when Arizona's lost, the Dodgers have lost. And it's kind of been the same storyline with the Padres, which is why the Padres can't make up any ground on Arizona, because either they win, we win, or they lose, Friars lose.
Yeah.
So it's strange, but that's the latest there. 3rd team here in Southern California, we got followers.
Yeah. I mean, this is good. I mean, the Angels are having a nice little season coming here, right?
In the playoff hunt.
Nice.
Who would have thought we'd have this conversation the first week of June? Halos in the playoff hunt. Phil Nevin has really got them believing. I mean, the most important aspect is Ohtani is en route to another MVP season. He's got 23 home runs, leads the majors in home runs. He's pitching pretty well. He's only had 1 or 2 bad outings. That's, I think, a fatigue factor. Trout has stayed on the field. He's hitting home runs. Rendon just went back on the disabled list today for the 3rd time this season. Can't keep him on the roster. So I think the composite roster isn't great, but they're playing hard. They're playing aggressive. They're kind of cut from Nevin's cloth in terms of their personality. And they're hanging in there with kind of a substandard starting staff and a very iffy bunch out of the bullpen, but they are where they are and they're doing it. And you can't take away what the Halos have accomplished so far. I mean, they're sitting there with all this mediocrity around their superstars, and yet they've won 11 of their last 14 games.
Really? Wow.
It's pretty impressive. So your thoughts?
I love hearing this. And I'm a fan of Phil Nevin, former Padre. His kids played ball with my son. So I'm always rooting for him. But, Phil is a good baseball guy. And not only in terms of his baseball IQ, but he's a leader of men, and he's a tough guy. And so he'll know when to smack his guys around. He'll know when to give them a hug. He kind of knows how to handle these guys. And he never really had the opportunity to be a manager in a lot of his other gigs. Now he finally has that shot. It's wonderful to see him having success.
We'll see where this goes. It is June. There's still half a season to play, but right now somebody's got to be pleased with what's transpired up at Angel Stadium. Okay, before we go to college athletics and a lot of controversy, just remind everybody about Fans Forum and who we want to join us and sit here at this table.
Yeah, so who do we want to join us? We want you to join us. So if you've got a hot question to take, put it in the live chat on Facebook or YouTube. We'll see it. We'll get you involved like we always do in the Fans Forum segment at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
And a reminder, check out my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. If you've yet to subscribe, we have busted through the 1,900 subscription barrier in 8 months. We're kind of warp speeding. We'd like to get to 2,000 subscribers by July 4th. By the way, it's free for you to join. What you'll do is you'll get all the alerts for all the different things we put on our podcast site. Now, we also do other stuff, TikTok, all these verticals, etc. Do you think it's blowing up in Instagram?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, you have videos that have like over 280,000 views on Instagram. It's unbelievable.
So if you like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up. Want you to subscribe. Want you to share with all your friends. And do check my website. All right, let's go from baseball. Let's talk about college athletics, because this story has really taken a turn for the worse.
Yeah, I mean, because we've been waiting for this day to happen. We knew there was that June 30th deadline, and now the Aztecs are finally kind of showing their cards.
It's a big issue. San Diego State had to make a determination by June 30th. Were they going to exit the Mountain West Conference? Were they going to get an offer from the Pac-12? At this point, they haven't exited, but they have sent the Mountain West a letter about our intentions are to probably depart at the end of 2024. That's what was in the letter. Now, there's a $17 million buyout that San Diego State has to pay. They've asked the Mountain West, after informing them that likely this is going to happen a year from now, they asked Mountain West for an extension to make the decision. They also asked for a payment structure that they don't have to pay $17 million immediately, that maybe it could be bartered every quarter, half a year payment, etc., to get to the $17 million. Mountain West reacted terribly. Mountain West immediately removed the president, De La Torre, off the board of directors of the Mountain West Conference. I don't understand that. They promptly started the process of expelling San Diego State from the conference. San Diego State went back and said, we were just telling you what our intention is. And Mountain West response is, it's a letter of resignation. And on top of all that, they have denied to pay the $6 million that the conference was due in June to San Diego State. This is money already earned as a conference member in good standing. I don't understand that. And I don't understand just this whole attitude from the Mountain West Conference. You're doing this to us? San Diego State has been the flagship of that conference for what? A decade in basketball?
At least.
It's been a dominant team in football. San Diego State, because of the Aztecs hoops, have generated for the conference office $10 million during the Steve Fisher, Brian Dutcher era. And this conference is treating them like this. I mean, it's a business decision. Probably there's an offer coming from the Pac-12. Mountain West knew this, and now they're reacting really badly, like they're going to evict them from the conference before we ever get to 2024. I think it's just a horrific way to treat what has been a member in really good standing. I swear to you, had it not been for Aztec basketball, John, this conference would be like the Sun Belt Conference, the Atlantic Sun Conference. Like nobody would freaking pay attention to it. So based on what San Diego State has done, I don't understand the methodology of the Mountain West office in Colorado Springs for acting the way they have acted towards San Diego State's athletic department, the athletic director, and the president of the university.
Well, breakups are never easy, you know, and some side's going to take it harder than the other. What made this one more complex is that everyone could see it coming. And so finally, when the Mountain West Conference got the Dear John letter, they just, you know, they went crazy, you know, because they knew they were being rebuked. But, you know, the headline there says it's over money. Of course it's over money. I mean, there's a lot of money on the table here for the Aztecs in terms of what they can do. You know, and on top of that, the Mountain West has brought in teams into the conference. It's a fluid thing, you know, amongst, especially these days. When USC and UCLA left the Pac-12, it seemed like that was a shocker. Like, you know, no one saw that one coming. But this one, I think they could see it coming, and that's why they're so angry.
Pac-12 media contract will probably be signed within 2 weeks. Supposedly, the value will be $37 million per team.
Wow.
Mountain West TV contract, $3 million per season. Common sense says the cost of running an athletic department is monumental, and you have a chance to put your university in a different structure and generate $37 million coming in the front door. Everybody in the world would sign up for that. So I just don't understand the Mountain West treating the flagship university in this conference as badly as they're treating themselves. We'll see where this story goes. But first domino was the new media contract in the Pac-12. That should be followed shortly by an offer, we believe now, to San Diego State and SMU to go in to be the 11th and 12th members. We'll see where it goes from here. That's not the only controversial story in basketball. We got an absolute ton of other things to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, like in the NBA, all these trade rumors, and I mean, you got the big board here, Lee. Let's take a look.
Well, let's start with obviously the NBA story with Ja Morant. 25-game suspension. This is his 7th off-the-court incident in about a 2-year span. 3 or 4 of them had something to do with gun possession on a video. He obviously doesn't get it. 25-game suspension. Now the union is up in arms. The union said they would agree with whatever the discipline was. They didn't think it'd be 25 games. 25 games is $7 million of Ja Morant's contract.
Wow.
Also, he cannot be reinstated after 25 games. He must go through a complete counseling program that the league has recommended. He must also provide a proposal of how he is going to conduct his personal business off the court if he is reinstated. I don't know that he can change his ways. He is what he is. He runs with the posse he runs with. It's just a horrible story. So that's that. This story out of West Virginia is gruesome. Bob Huggins, longtime basketball coach. I've known him since 1980. He self-destructed. You know, he was involved at the University of Cincinnati in a number of controversial issues, even though the Bearcats were a really good basketball program. There were NCAA violations. He had 2 DUIs along the way. The academic graduation rate at UC was 28%, and he just kind of snubbed his nose at the university when they criticized the basketball program. He did not leave on good terms with the president and some of the board of trustee members. Goes to West Virginia. He duplicates what he did. In fact, he did better. He won 305 games at WVU. He won almost 300 at the University of Cincinnati. He's gone to the NCAA tournament 11 times, been to the Final Four twice with the Bearcats. But there were personality issues. There were red flags issues with him for a long time. To me, it's terribly sad because he's a great coach, but he's a flawed man. And now the incident 6 weeks ago, and we kind of intimated that nobody acts like this on radio. When he started using F-bombs during a radio interview, and he attacked gays and lesbians, and then he attacked Catholics, I said, who the hell does that in the public venue now? Mm-hmm. Well, he did. And I thought there was something going on with him off the court that needed to be addressed. And now 6 weeks later, this drunk driving arrest in a battered car filled with beer cans. He blew 0.21 blood alcohol.
Wow.
That's almost 3 times the limit. Usually when you get those kind of numbers in a drunk driving incident, it involves accidents and fatalities. His car was wrecked, etc. He was forced out. He resigned within hours, but he was indeed forced out. I guess the thing that shocks me, and I've known him since I worked in Ohio, and I thought he was a really good coach. He was really aggressive. He was really pushy. He was really demanding. And I think he always lived on the edge. But over this course of years, since he's had these alcohol issues there, and then obviously this was getting worse in Morgantown, how come nobody in his inner circle, none of his friends, nobody in the university infrastructure would do an intervention with him about what they were seeing, how he was acting, what he was becoming? How could that happen? I mean, he's been tremendously successful, a very powerful man, even within the university structure. I think this is horrible. And I hope he winds up in intensive rehab, because it's obvious to me now he has a drinking problem grossly out of control. And I feel sad for him because I liked him. And you don't come out of this unless you're clean. And we're not talking just about job employment. We're also talking about health. Ever heard the word cirrhosis of the liver?
Oh, yeah.
You drink to the point of a 0.21? Holy cow. So I think it's a terribly sad story. I would hope 2 of his greatest players both played in the NBA for better than a decade, both at University of Cincinnati, Nick Van Exel and a big center. Mine escapes me right now. One of those 2 guys should do an intervention with Bob Huggins. And those kids owe Huggins their NBA careers because he developed them into great players. And I would hope that one of those two players would do an intervention and guide him, walk him in to the Hazelden Clinic somewhere in the country and get him help, because it's obvious to me he needs help. I think it's a terrible story. To me, it's a sad story. And I think Kenyon Martin, the center, and Nick Van Exel, the guard, both who starred in the NBA, one with the Lakers, one with Denver, those guys can make a difference. And I think somebody close to him needs to help save his life.
Yeah, well, the good news is that he decided to step down. But it just goes to show you, you know, if you're like a head basketball coach, you're a big man on campus, you know, people have issues, you know, they have challenges. They're going to alcohol and drinking excessively because they're trying to avoid reality. You know, they're having trouble. They have their own struggles. So people need help, you know, and I think we're all learning, whether you're the top dog as a coach in a big time program, or you're just a regular sports fan, you know, there are substance abuse issues that need to be addressed. So hopefully he gets help. It's good there wasn't an accident, but geez, over 0.2, that's way over the edge.
Yeah. It's an addiction. It's a terrible addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And those kind of numbers, that's like neon lights. That's a really severe addiction. All right. So we go from John Morant to Bob Huggins. Let's go to the third topic. Michael Jordan. He accomplished so much as a player, has accomplished so much as a businessman. He did not accomplish it as an owner. Michael Jordan has put the Charlotte Hornets up for sale. Didn't win anything in 13 years as owner of the Charlotte Hornets. And when he walked in that front door, everybody thought this franchise is going to great heights. Never, ever got there. Never won a playoff series in 13 years. Won only 3 playoff games in the 13 years. He was never around. He was out playing golf. He was an entrepreneur who loved golf and didn't spend any attention within. And there was a lot of stuff going on inside their building about, where is our leader? Why is our leader not here, part of the basketball decisions? And so he's put the thing up for sale. Quite an investment. He bought it for $284,000. He will sell it for $2 billion.
Wow. You mean 284 million?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
$2 billion. But still, that's a 10-to-1 return. I always think of Michael Jordan as, I always thought he was like a minority owner because he was so invisible. But he's the top dog there?
He's the majority owner.
Wow. So he's like a Steve Ballmer or Mark Cuban, a guy you expect to see on the sideline every night.
He played golf all the time. It was a huge point of argument. On we go. NBA draft is on Thursday. We know who's going to be the first pick. San Antonio gets Victor Wembanyama, outstanding player from France. This will be fascinating to see how quickly he develops under a really good coach in Greg Popovich. And of course, they've had great success in San Antonio developing European and foreign abroad players.
Yeah.
So he goes there with the number 1 pick. Charlotte gets the 2nd pick. It looks as if they're going to take Brandon Miller, the big forward that we saw in the NCAA tournament against San Diego State. He's from the University of Alabama. Nobody knows what's going to happen with the 3rd pick. And this is the most intriguing thing. Portland is at 3. Portland's got 2 issues going on. One is Damian Lillard says, trade the pick and get me veteran players so we can win while I can still play. Or if you can't do that, trade me and get me out of here. So Portland's got a tough decision to make. They are taking trade offers. That remains to be seen what transpires. 1 and 2 are locked. After that, it could be anybody and everybody.
Yeah, I was looking at a mock draft of the NBA, and a lot of these guys are already in the G League. So I guess they've been able to sign there as amateurs, but I was surprised by that because I thought everyone in the G League was already drafted or was a free agent acquisition.
A couple of years ago, they formed what's called the elite team that played in the G League. That was all underclassmen who did not want to go to college, that filed to go to the NBA.
Okay, that's it, because it said elite. Yeah.
Well, there's the elite team, and then there's the Ignite team. And those are 2 very different teams, but they are built around high school seniors not wanting to go to college, go there for a year, be one and done in that level, and then jump into the NBA draft.
Okay.
So that's where we are there. Okay, one other topic on the table. We knew deals were coming, and this is the first one. And I guarantee you, John, there will be a bunch of dominoes going to fall between now and Thursday night. This is the Phoenix Suns making the trade with the Washington Wizards. Brad Beal, really good guard, good guy, huge contract. Tired of losing in Washington. They worked out a deal. He waived his no-trade clause. He gave some money back to allow this to happen. Brad Beal goes to Phoenix in a complex deal. We've not heard the end of it, but Phoenix sends 38-year-old guard Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, young guard, 4 second-round draft picks, and a flip-flop of high picks in years down the road. We don't know what years there will be, how many of them there are. All that goes to Washington for Brad Beal. Beal waived the no-trade clause in his contract. He gave up the 15% kicker that was part of that extended contract. Phoenix takes on a $50 million deal. As we sit here on a Monday night, Phoenix now has 4 max players under contract. I mean, led by Devin Booker and obviously Kevin Durant. DeAndre Ayton is still there, and now you add Brad Beal. Holy cow, that's the team to beat in the NBA West, if not in the NBA championship round. So that's fascinating. Now, there's going to be some fallout. The rumor is that Washington is going to take Chris Paul and put him out there on the table. Make me your best offer, Clippers. Make me your best offer, Lakers. I think CP3 is going to wind up wearing one of those uniforms next year. Maybe that trade comes down between now and Thursday. So that's what's going on around the NBA. And there's just a ton of trade rumors. Is Damian Lillard going to be moved out of Portland? Miami's got 4 guards. They're trying to trade 2 of the guards. Is Ayton going to stay in Phoenix, or is the new owner going to jettison him somewhere else too? I don't buy this Kyrie Irving push to get LeBron James. The Clippers have got 3 big men they're shopping. So, John, there's a lot of dominoes are going to fall. Don't walk away from your source of information, because the story's going to be changing. Go ahead.
I'm surprised that the Suns had any picks to deal, because they gave away all those number 1s to get KD. And so here, I guess they got rid of their 2s. So they got nothing. It seems like the Suns are almost like the Padres of the NBA, getting all these name guys. But I had heard that that Pat Riley in Miami got a lot of crap from the fans because they wanted to get Beal down there to play for the Heat.
Well, they didn't. I don't know why Washington took this trade, because it's obvious that they're moving CP3, and maybe they're going to eat the contract on Landry Shamet, and they didn't get high number 1s. They got 2s. Picks 35 to 60. They're not great value. The NBA draft has changed a great deal. Now, it may well be that Miami was not willing to part with certain guards, and maybe that's the reason the deal didn't get done. But I don't think we're done dealing in the NBA. Okay, let's move on. We got on ice to talk about.
Yeah, I saw the pieces of this story that there was like a lot going on. It was more than a hockey game in the arena.
Well, we're talking about Las Vegas, Florida Panthers Game 5, which decided the Stanley Cup. Las Vegas police, 4 hours before the game, arrested a Las Vegas man who on social media had made threats he was going to take guns into the arena and was going to kill people. Evidently, they found out the night before a family member who had seen posts on social media from this man who has a history of mental health problems called police and said, I think this relative of mine has written this. And 2 other friends also made contact with the police. They arrested the guy at his home. He didn't have any guns on him when they went into the house. Now, they did find weapons there. So they snuffed out what could have been a bad situation. Boy, you see that and you say, holy cow. But guns in society, it's so out of control, so bad. But the Las Vegas police put that situation to rest 4 hours before that final Golden Knights game against the Florida Panthers, where they won the cup. And over the weekend, here's an eerie angle to this story. They had on the Las Vegas Strip the championship trophy parade for the Vegas Knights. 100,000 fans showed up. But the hotels that encompass the Strip, that are right on the Strip, the police got access to all the rooms who had windows looking out onto the Strip to search to make sure. And I mean, that's banging on a lot of doors and waking people up to do searches. They had search warrants to make sure nobody had guns.
Wow.
What's our society come to? Just great work by Las Vegas police. Citizens stood up and said, we're worried about this guy. This guy's had a history of mental health problems, and the dude's got guns.
Well, it's good on his family members for reporting him, because, better to be, extra cautious than to give it too much slack. But they're still reeling in Vegas from that terrible shooting at the country music concert, which I don't know if they've ever even solved that one. I mean, or at least found a motive on that particular shooting.
It was that 60 who got killed, I believe.
Yeah, that was insane. That was what, like maybe 5-6 years ago. But yeah, it's interesting too that we see all these mass shootings that occur all across America. We're fortunate that very, very rarely does it ever happen at a sporting event. You think that'd be a primetime target?
Yeah. The worst thing that I remember is the movie. What was the movie about the Super Bowl with the guns and killings? And this movie must be 15, 20 years old.
Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that quote created, was it called Black Sunday, I believe?
Maybe, yeah.
A lot of stuff that was created in that movie has happened in society. That's not good. Let's talk about something cool. Let's talk about what happened. Go ahead, corner kick me a question on this, would you?
Well, yeah. What's your take here? I mean, the U.S. men's national team, they won the tournament. They got their coach. They're sitting in a good position.
They really are. I don't know if you followed soccer. If you're a soccer fan, you need to be with us on our bonus coverage on Monday and our regular coverage on Thursday, because we are covering a lot of soccer. That guy is back. Greg Berhalter, after about 6 months of controversy, has been rehired, given a contract extension. I tend to think, because last week we talked about suddenly Berhalter was interviewing other places because any conversation with Team USA had been stalled. I tend to think that when the story got out that Club America in Mexico and Sparta of Rotterdam in Netherlands, where he had played as a young star, were interviewing him for their coaching job, that forced Matt Crockett, the new general manager of Team USA, to get to the forefront. They got there real quick. He had a 10-hour meeting with Berhalter on the weekend, and they came to an agreement that he would come back for the next 3 years through 2026. So it's great, because the players had spoken out in public that this man was the architect of everything. There's a pretty good chemistry relationship. Now, Berhalter admitted that there is, quote, work to be done to solve the problem with Gio Reyna. However, they'll find a way to set this aside, what the Reyna family did to Berhalter that got him removed as coach for about a 6-month period. They'll have to solve it. I do think they'll solve it. Peer pressure, players in that room will help solve the thing. Here's the cool part. I mean, they blew out Mexico 3-0, not a competitive game at all. It was a really ugly game. 4 red cards, ton of personal fouls. The game was stopped because Mexican fans threw tons of garbage on the field. And then the game was stopped the second time because Mexican fans have a history of uttering gay slurs on the field when their team is losing.
Really?
They ended the game at the 89th minute. They did not let it go into extra time because of what the fans were doing. And the referees under FIFA have a right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible, horrible end. But Team USA totally dominated. Then they came back and they won the second game of the tournament to win the Nations League Cup, and they shut out Team Canada. That was a much more spirited game, and Canada had a bunch of scoring chances. To me, the most exciting part is just what transpired. Gio Reyna played really well. They put him out on the wing as a guy that distributed the ball. The defenses got sucked there to try to defend him. He hit Christian Pulisic. Pulisic banged home a couple goals in the Mexican game. Then they turned around and they used Ricardo Pepi, the 19-year-old. He scored a goal in one of the games. Zendejas got the chance to play right at the end. I mean, Team America, Team USA looks so different now with the firepower they have. It's just not Christian Pulisic by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Now suddenly they've got 3 to 4 other young snipers that I think are going to be real difference makers. So everything to me is looking up. We go from the Nations League to the Gold Cup coming up. And when the Gold Cup is completed, then Berhalter in August will actually take control of Team USA. But everybody seems really pleased. I'm pleased because he's the architect of where this thing has come from, and obviously the driver of where we think globally this thing can go. And by the way, speaking of soccer coaches, Mexico just fired the guy they just hired. Diego Coca was a head coach at Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
7 games in, they oust him. Went 3-3-1, but they weren't competitive at all in the game against Team USA. He just got fired on Monday morning. Also, Mexico's federation is facing a $150,000 fine for the junk that came in out of the stadium from all those fans. They'd already been fined $100,000 prior. Now it looks like that's going to go again. And Mexico is in total disarray. They have fired 8 executives and coaches in the last 11 months, including 2 head coaches. So they are in right now, they are in total disarray. And El Tri, that's the team. That's the only thing that is important to Mexican sports fans is their World Cup soccer team, and they look into total disarray. So we've talked a lot about Berhalter. We talked about the players. We talked about the young guys on the come. Boy, sure looks like they've arrived in this tournament, and now we look forward to what's coming.
Yeah, the future looks great, but just think about where this program was. You know, you roll the clock back 40 years ago, it was just the disgrace. And then when America hosted the World Cup in the early 90s, they showed something there, and little by little they got better. But remember, they took a big dip, and they didn't make the World Cup in 2018.
Yes.
But now they're kind of on the rise again. So this is exciting. I watched parts of the game. I think it was pay-per-view, but I was able to watch it for free on Univision. So I kind of tested out some of my Spanish language.
And that wasn't very good either. I didn't understand anything you were trying to say to me on the phone talking Spanish, but I did too. I watched Univision because I could identify the players, and they would identify the English names of the players. But the Landon Donovan era really spiked the interest in World Cup soccer. Then they dipped because their players got old and guys retired, and then failed to make the World Cup. Then Berhalter drove this thing, put this young roster together, not so much to win in 2023, or what year was it, 2023? But what they're going to build towards in 2026, and they look like they're ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time, and I think about El Tri in Mexico. There's a lot of national pride at stake. And, for the longest time, I mean, they were the dominant North American team because the United States was so down. Now things are switching. I think Mexico figured this was the one sport they had the up on the United States, and now that table's been turned.
Past tense, I agree. All right, let's go from that to what happened on Sunday in Los Angeles. It's our final topic on the table. Get ready to fire us questions and comments in our fans forum. It's coming up real quick. I watched the U.S. Open. I watched part of the first round on Thursday. I was amazed. I watched almost virtually the whole thing on Sunday. I was really stunned. This was not par for the course U.S. Open golf. U.S. Open golf has this philosophy, John, the integrity of par. They make the golf course impossible to play. The greens are so fast, the pin placements are wicked, the bunkers, the rough. It's impossible to survive. I mean, if you win the U.S. Open at 1 or 2 under par, you've had yourself a good 4 days. We came out of the gates on Thursday, and the leaders were 10 under par.
Yeah.
Ricky Fowler had 10 birdies on a U.S. Open golf course. And 15 minutes later, Xander Schauffele stormed to the end, and I think he had 8 birdies along the way, and he shot a 10 under par. I mean, it was absolutely stunning what happened the first day. And I said, what is this, miniature golf? This is not the U.S. Open. U.S. Open is lakes all over the place, tight fairways, really high rough. You're going to lose your ball in that rough. You're going to take double penalties. Now, there are some guys that got killed, but as Thursday turned to Friday, the course got a little bit tougher. Then the weather changed. It got warm. And by the time we got to Saturday into Sunday, it was tough to sink putts on the green because the greens were playing so fast. And, pal, if you put the thing in the bunker, you're in trouble. You put the thing in the high rough, you're in trouble. Sunday looked like a U.S. Open. Wyndham Clark wins it. This is a guy out of Oklahoma State that's had just so many setbacks in his career. He almost gave up golf. His mother was dying. She was the biggest backer he had, and she told him, just go play big before he passed away. And he's finally turned the corner. Some of it was physical. A bunch of it was mental in terms of his approach and dealing with the frustrations of being, a guy on the PGA Tour. I'm sorry, John, I saw you break your club on the course. You were pissed off, but these guys can't do that.
Yeah.
So he really turned the corner. But it was wild. He held on as the big names were hunting him down on Sunday. Here came Rory McIlroy, and he got within 1 stroke. Here came Scotty Scheffler, and he got close, and he could not close the door. Other guys kind of self-destructed the longer they played onto the U.S. Open style of course on Sunday. Their games kind of fell apart. But, McIlroy had 16 pars. 16 pars on Sunday. He couldn't make birdies. It's like he didn't have a putter in the bag, but he didn't take bogeys along. That's why he hung tough. But Wyndham Clark didn't make any mistakes. Ricky Fowler had 10 birdies on opening day. He had 6 bogeys on Sunday. The course kind of grabbed him. And there were just others that struggled. Xander on Sunday. Xander was in the hunt. Schauffele, the Aztec star, 3 bogeys and a triple bogey. And then there was Dustin Johnson. Now, you can identify with this. Dustin Johnson took a quadruple bogey into the water twice. He finished with an 8 on one hole. You've been there, done that.
Yes. Snowman.
Yeah, snowman, exactly. Brooks Koepka spent the whole weekend whining about the LA Country Club course. He didn't play very well. Some guys did. Matt Fitzpatrick had an ace in the U.S. Open on a U.S. Open course. So it was just a tremendous, I thought it was a wild weekend. I was hoping for McIlroy to get it because he's had a long dry spell, winning a Grand Slam event, but good for Wyndham Clark because he soldiered through a lot of adversity, and this will be a memory of a lifetime. He could not talk when he came off the 18. He was weeping so much. It's just kind of a cool story. And other guys, the Phil Mickelsons of the world, did not make the cut. Jon Rahm had kind of a ratty day. The course kind of gobbled him up on Saturday and Sunday. So U.S. Open became the U.S. Open, but it surely wasn't that the first day. I looked at that and said, how is this possible? This is the U.S. Open.
Yeah, it was a fun tournament to watch. And it's nice to see, one of these young guys that kind of turned their career around and won one of the big ones. But I think the other part of the story is everything about the course itself, the LA Country Club. And, I used to live up there near UCLA. And I remember driving past that course on Wilshire Boulevard, and I always just thought of it, that's just a private course. But we since learned it's like, $250,000 for a membership, and they don't want celebrities. They just want kind of old money, I guess, guys smoking cigars on the course kind of thing. But it's a really exclusive venue, and that's why the event, the U.S. Open, the crowds were kind of mild. There weren't as many people as we would have liked.
Yeah, it wasn't until the 18th hole. Once Clark got it up on the green, they let the ropes down, and the people surged. It was really cool. The final shot with everybody around the green, probably 20 deep. So PGA Tour, great golf. We had that coming on the heels of what we just saw north of the border in the Canadian Open on the 72-foot shot. And Wyndham Clark hit a 59-foot putt that got him within 1 inch of the hole on the 18th and then just tapped it in and got the victory. So cool story. Okay, time for Fans Forum. You got questions, we got answers. If you agree with us, great. If you disagree with us, well, too bad for you. And John's friends from left field, I can see, have also joined us. Go ahead on Fans Forum.
Okay, here we go. This is from Emmanuel, and he says, I'm sorry, Lee, but the great Vin Scully has the wild horse nickname to Yasiel Puig 10 years ago.
Well, I concur with you, but that was a decade ago, and I don't think anybody's trademarked that. And I'll tell you what, you watch what Tatis is doing on the field. He covers so much real estate, 2 area codes in right field. He's going on top of walls to get balls. Then what he's doing on the bases, gets to first base, it's automatic. He's going to second. And then what he's doing on plays to create runs and energy, etc. So to me, Wild Horse kind of sounds like the way he's playing right now. I hope he can continue it. Now, if you got a different nickname aside from El Nino and Wild Horse, go ahead.
When I hear Wild Horse, I think of the Rolling Stones. But I just love that play. When he went to second, the ball gets away, he goes to third, and Matt Williams is putting up the stop sign, and Tatis just went on instinct and galloped home. I mean, to be a wild horse. And he came after he crossed the plate. He was like jumping and exploding on his way back to the dugout. It was just terrific.
Yeah, the only thing missing was the sombrero hat or the swag chain.
Yeah, exactly. And then he threw out the guy at home plate. I mean, what a great series for him. This is going to be a fun 4-game series up in San Francisco starting tonight.
Yeah, and I think it's a litmus test. I mean, we find out if your phrase "turn the corner," if that is correct. All right, on we go. Next question on Fans Forum.
Okay, this one's from John Hopkins. He says, Could San Diego State say, quote, okay, let's go independent and let the Pac-12 and Big 12 compound upon our door?
Well, I guess they could step away for a year or two, but what happens if the Pac-12 does not offer them? What if the Pac-12 rethinks the position and say, everybody has agreed in the grant of deeds to stay in our conference, nobody can leave, and each school has to sign that before the TV deal is finalized. So you could go independent, but what happens if it doesn't work out? And in terms of the Big 12, they were at Memphis this past week. University of Memphis got a pretty good football and a really good basketball program, and they got a much bigger following than San Diego State does. Now, the TV set markets is part of the equation. So I think you need caution. But why would the Mountain West do this? After all the things San Diego State has represented for that conference logo, why would they treat them this way? I mean, if I were the Mountain West Conference, handle this with class. Allow them to have the structure to sit another year if that's what needs be. Let them go have another basketball tournament team that brings in more money for the conference coffers, and then work with them on their exit fees instead of kicking the university president off the board of directors.
Yeah.
And instead of taking $6 million that they've already earned and said, we're not going to pay you. What kind of way is that to do business for a flagship university that has been a really good citizen in that conference? So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like one of your brothers getting a promotion, so, show the love, but here's a question for you, Lee. Now there's all these rumors that, maybe Arizona State leaves, Utah, Colorado, maybe they leave the Pac-12. Do you think if the Pac-12 disintegrated that much, would the Mountain West and the Pac-12 merge as one?
There might well have to be some type of consolidation. But that's the worst case scenario. And how many schools can the Pac-12 have? You got 20 schools in a conference. What kind of conference is that going to be? And again, that's why they're working so hard. The president at the University of Arizona on Friday night, I think his name is Rob Robbins, said he believes everybody will sign the grant of deed this week, which then locks everybody into the new TV contract, and they go get the money. $37 million in a deal is not bad, and you can always build on it if the conference gets more powerful along the way. The Big 12 revenue share is $41 million per school, so it's not that big a difference. But to me, there's so much heritage out here. I mean, you go swing all the way back to the Pac-8 back in the 60s. Why? That's what upsets me so much about the Trojans and the Bruins. Why would you walk away from the heritage of what this conference is? So I don't think Oregon and Washington are going to leave. I don't know that the corner schools, Arizona State, should leave. Colorado's a different scenario because that's where they came from. I don't think they should have ever left there to begin with, but they're not going back to the same conference. Oklahoma's gone. Nebraska's gone. Texas is gone. Texas A&M's gone. That's not the same Big 12 from yesteryear. So it's just a different time. I hope they solve it.
Yeah, I hope so too. This is going to be a fascinating few weeks here as we get near that June 30th deadline. Here's another comment here from Manny. He says, which network or streaming service has the inside track to give the Pac-12 the money they are looking for?
There's not many opportunities out there. One of the things that the conversation point is they are negotiating with Amazon to stream. Now, everybody's going to get into this thing where you got to buy the streaming service, and that's going to upset John Q. Fan, who's normally turned on ABC and watched Pac-12 football for a lifetime,
right
before Keith Jackson.
Yeah.
So that's an issue. ESPN is out of the mix because of all the things that they've done, and ESPN has now gone into cutting cost mode. Fox may well be out there. The general consensus from what I've gotten from the people I network with, it's going to be a two-tier thing, and Amazon might well be a streaming carrier, and then obviously you've got whoever's going to be on the network. So we'll find out. I would think before July 4th, we're probably going to find out what's going to happen with the TV deal and the dollar value, and then that immediately spins off to who gets offered to go, if anybody gets offered to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, however it sorts out, it's going to be an upgrade for San Diego State.
Well, we think, unless they don't get an offer.
Well, yeah, and then if they're in no man's land, then it could be a little bit tricky. But they're going to get offered. I mean, the Pac-12 needs them. The Big 12 could certainly use them as well. So.
Okay, you can do the show from left field. That's fine.
Let's get some social media commenters in here. And this is from the Ashtray of LA on Instagram. Says, I'm interested how the Padres are going to do against the good teams. LOL. Tampa about to carve them up.
Well, Ashtray, Tampa, I mean, that was a pretty good 3-game series. Pretty tense, right on the edge. Tampa's defense is not what I thought it would be. I was kind of surprised how sloppy they were at times. Shortstop, third base, catcher. Padres have to prove they can do it on a game-by-game, series-by-series basis, and we have not seen that yet. So they go play the Giants. Like I say, 10 of the next 13 on the road. They really have to dominate this to stay in the hunt, because if they get wiped out in the series, next group or series of games, they're going to be in a world of hurt, because they'll be so far back with so many teams they would have to vault over. And you can say, well, the Padres will hit their way back into it, but then you're presupposing that everybody above them is going to go on 10-game losing streaks, and I don't think you can do that. They have the best roster of any of these teams. They have the most experience, and these guys have not hit up to their standards. And I know Manny Machado's walking around peeved at the San Diego media. Just read the back of my baseball card. Well, the back of your baseball card said you're a 290 hitter and you're hitting 234. I haven't hit very many home runs. So that's what the back of the baseball card used to be versus what is now. So let's give them this 13-game stretch and see how they do.
Well, we were saying before, it's early. Well, it's not early anymore. Yeah. The All-Star break is in a few weeks.
Yes.
And, so, yeah, they got to get their act together. No time like the present. Okay, here's one from Stand Up talking about giving the players a second chance. He says, Kaepernick was demoted to second string and he quit the NFL. He wanted starters pay, but he was no longer of starting quality. He was given chances to come back, but he turned them all down. He's nothing but a charlatan.
Well, I'll disagree with you, because he was hurt and he had major shoulder surgery because he took a pounding. Statistically, he wasn't the same quarterback towards the end in San Francisco because he got hurt a bunch. Had only one team that expressed interest, and that was coming in to be the number 2 guy to compete for the job, and he didn't take the offer. I don't understand why he got bad advice or why he didn't just control his career. But by the same token, let's be realistic here. When he was young at 28, the guy could still play post-surgery. Why he didn't take an offer, why somebody didn't offer him. You look at the laundry list of quarterbacks who got signed. Josh Johnson, USD, has been on 14 different rosters.
That's right.
And he can hardly play, and yet he kept getting re-signed, and Kaepernick was out. Now, Kaepernick can't play anymore because he's age 34 going on 35, and he's been out of it 6 years. But back then, at 28 or 29, why he didn't get a look-see from a bunch of clubs who had lost quarterbacks because of injuries just absolutely stuns me. And freedom of speech is part of the equation. He didn't do anything illegal except stand up for a social cause that he firmly believed in. And I went back. I interviewed Colin Kaepernick one time in his career, and I went back and looked at the social causes that he's been involved in, John. I mean, he donated $1 million of his money to children's hospitals in Ghana to build hospitals. And what he's done for after-school education programs in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and in Oakland. It's just amazing. And food programs for kids in the inner city schools in those cities. I mean, the guy's a good citizen. It just ended really badly.
Well, remember when he broke into the league? I think wasn't Jim Harbaugh was the coach of the 49ers, and was Alex Smith the starting quarterback? And I think they benched him and put in this Kaepernick guy. We're all going, who in the heck is he? And he led him to the Super Bowl, against the Ravens. He was electric in his first couple of years. But, it's interesting. It's so politicized. And so a lot of times, the haters on Kaepernick that didn't agree with his social stance will sometimes use the excuse that he couldn't play anymore. But to your point, he was injured.
He was, and he had surgeries, and that was a big issue. And unique kid. I mean, they found him at Nevada, Reno. He was a really great college quarterback. Doesn't necessarily equate to being a great NFL quarterback, but he strung together some good years. So it's just the social causes, I think, indirectly impacted him. Now, maybe he had to go to a special offense, and that's why a bunch of teams did not call him. The Lamar Jackson type offense would have been a fit for him, but him going somewhere else is strictly a pocket passer, and somebody else's offense might not have worked. On we go. Next question.
On we go. So here's a question about the PGA. This is from Chris Stock. He says, I suppose the only real losers are the PGA members who stayed loyal and didn't take the blood money. They are persona non grata.
Well, let me give you a couple spins on this because we talked about it extensively last week. As part of the merger, if it ever gets approved by the Department of Justice, because they're now examining it, it's going to take about a year. But when the merger occurs, the PGA is going to run every facet of golf between the ropes. There will also be a new business venture, which is funded by the $3 billion that the Saudi fund is putting into this pot, a business venture in which the loyalty guys, the Rory McIlroys, the Tigers, whomever, are going to get bonus money for staying on the PGA Tour. And that money will come out of the LIV fund that was used to set up this thing. Now, it's complex. We don't have all the details yet. But just think, PGA golf globally, where you can work the calendar to make all these events and then the creative events part of the European tour. So therefore, the John Rahms of the world and the Xander Schauffele's and whomever go abroad and play in a team concept in maybe a 3-day tournament where the PGA flag is planted in Paris or in Barcelona or in Morocco. The amount of money to be made by going into markets that have never really had, quote, all the stars, and now these would be the global stars come into play, it's going to be phenomenal. And so those type of business investment created tournaments, the loyal guys are going to get a chunk of the profits out of that. That's how it was explained to me.
That's awesome. I mean, they deserve it, for sticking with the program. But I just look at this more broadly, is look at the financial opportunity that's available in all of these sports: baseball, football, basketball, hockey, golf. I mean, it's endless. And to see it go worldwide, I think is awesome, because I think sports, like the Olympics are supposed to be, is a way that we can bring people together.
Concur. And you see what the NFL's trying to do. They've been a little bit behind the curve about putting teams abroad in Europe. They are playing international games. NBA has just become a mega international game. National Hockey League has always been in certain hockey countries. Mm-hmm. Obviously not in Tokyo, Japan, but in Norway and Sweden and England and those places. They're playing games now abroad too. So it has grown. A couple more questions here in our fans forum.
Okay, here we go. This is talk about the MLB salary cap. This is from Doug on Twitter. The owners in Pittsburgh and other cities do not want a salary floor because they want low payroll for maximum profit. Pittsburgh cut payroll after a 98-win season in 2015.
It's a problem. It's a problem for about a third of the teams in Major League Baseball. And that's why I was taken by surprise by Hal Steinbrenner, the Yankees owner, last week, indicating I'd be in favor of a salary cap as long as there was a bottom floor that every team had to spend. And then Scott Boras came up with a formula that every one of these teams that takes revenue share has to spend to a floor 3 years in a row to make this work. It's just in the idea stage right now. The union has kind of said, no, we're not going to go there. Why wouldn't you go there? It just doesn't make any sense to me. When you'd force Kansas City and Pittsburgh and Miami to spend to 110 million rather than 60 million, that'd mean 40 million per year that somebody could go sign to play for the Pirates and Royals. The player, the mid-level veteran player, would extend his career. He'd get a nice payday. And by the way, he'd probably help the Royals and the Orioles and the Tigers in Pittsburgh, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you completely. And what's interesting in Pittsburgh is they just upgraded the ballpark. It's not just the fact that it's the new PNC, but they upgraded the sound system, kind of like they did at Petco a number of years ago. So why are they not investing in players? Instead, they're investing in infrastructure. I don't know. I agree with you. I think they need to have a floor just to keep the sport competitive.
The money's there. Everybody can make money in Major League Baseball. And the prime example is what's going on down the road here in the Gaslamp Quarter, Petco Park.
Yeah.
Padres have had 28 sellouts already, broken single-season record, and we're not even to the All-Star break. Second biggest attendance in baseball. Only the Dodgers are drawing more. Padres are drawing a shade over 40,000. Just think about the money that the Padres are generating and the product on the field and what it's meant to the fans and the community. And in all honesty, the Padres have kind of rebuilt the heart of our city. Our heart was broken by what Dean Spanos did by yanking the Chargers out of here. Now the Padres have healed us. Just look at Petco Park, how freaking electric it is.
It's awesome.
Yeah, whether you're in the stadium, you're in Gallagher Park or whatever, it's cool. That's what happens when you have a revenue stream and you commit to spend it and you go get players, and hopefully you don't make mistakes on the players you're spending the money on.
Yeah, well, it's too bad they can't do that in some of these other cities.
I concur. But Florida spending, that'd be a starting point.
Okay.
It would. Last question of the day on our bonus podcast.
Okay, this is from Fat Albert talking about how we judge athletes. He says, it's a Cartesian coordinate system. The independent axis is performance. The dependent axis is likability. Guys like Ryan and Koufax automatically get it. Guys like Bauer and Kaepernick never do.
Decision making. Why would you do anything that would put your career and your contract in jeopardy? Decision making. But not all of us are smart. A lot of guys come from bad backgrounds and keep making bad decisions because they're running with the same people off the field that are causing problems. So it's everywhere. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You're going to have players who have problems based on where they came from and how they got there and what their value system is. So thing is, you got unions to represent them, to guide them. You have a commissioner that will discipline them if they step way off the line, aka Jean Morant.
Yeah. Well, for the longest time, these kids were prima donnas. They ruled their high school when they were as an athlete, and they've been insulated from a lot of the external world. And so now they get a big, kind of a bunch of adulting that kind of gets thrown at them, and they've got to step up. And some of these guys are just ill-equipped.
And that's hard to believe because the unions of each of these elective sports make programs available for them. And it's obvious a large chunk of the players who get in trouble blow off the programs, don't read the playbook, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, listen, we hope you've enjoyed our Monday podcast. We do bonus podcast on Monday, big podcast on Thursday. Invite you to subscribe because that way you'll get all the alerts. Tell a friend. I don't care if you text, if you write, Instagram, whatever. Tell a friend of everything we're doing. Also, if I'm writing every night on that website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com, you owe it to me to check that website every night because I'll guarantee you'll know all the information there is in the world of sports. Also, in addition to subscribing, share the data with all your friends. Tell them what we're doing. If you feel like it, give us a thumbs up. Give John 5 stars as a co-host. We do appreciate you being with us. John, have a great week. We'll yak at you come Thursday. Thursday is NBA draft night, too.
This is a great week, and the Padres are going to San Francisco. I was hoping they can win at least 3 out of 4.
Hey, have yourself a great afternoon. Thanks for being with us on our bonus podcast and Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.